When a Sigma empath detaches, the world around them shifts, not with noise, but with silence. You can feel it in the way their presence changes, the warmth fades, and their energy becomes unreadable. It's not revenge, it's not coldness, it's clarity. Because when a Sigma empath finally decides to pull back emotionally, it means they've seen enough, felt enough, and learned enough to know that not every connection deserves access to their depth. They don't explode or announce it. They simply stop giving pieces of themselves away to people who drain them. Even the good ones feel it. Not because the empath stopped caring, but because the empath stopped carrying. Their love doesn't vanish. It transforms into distance, into peace, into observation. And in that silence, you realize how much of the light in your life came from their quiet understanding. This video will uncover what truly happens when a Sigma empath detaches emotionally, why their silence feels so heavy, how their absence reveals hidden truths, and how they rebuild themselves from empathy to self-mastery. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Brainy Empath, where deep souls, intuitive minds, and emotionally intelligent people come to understand the power of awareness, boundaries, and healing. And tell me in the comments, have you ever detached from someone not out of hate, but to protect your peace? The Sigma empath doesn't detach suddenly. They do it after too many quiet disappointments. A Sigma empath never wakes up one day and decides to stop caring. Their detachment is not impulsive, it's gradual, silent, and born from exhaustion. It begins with small moments that most people overlook. The unreturned effort, the one-sided conversations, the subtle ways they're made to feel too much or too deep. Each disappointment adds weight, pressing gently on their heart until one day, something inside them quietly shifts. They stop chasing clarity, they stop over-explaining, they stop pouring into connections that never pour back. To outsiders, it seems sudden, but if you looked closely, the signs were always there. The tired smiles, the pauses before responding, the emotional distance that replaced constant giving. The Sigma empath never leaves in anger. They leave in silence, because long before they walk away physically, they've already detached emotionally. They've felt the imbalance, the draining patterns, the endless cycle of fixing and forgiving, and they realize they can't keep sacrificing their peace to maintain someone else's comfort. The detachment begins as self-preservation. The empath who once absorbed everyone's pain starts filtering what they allow in. They no longer feel responsible for healing every broken soul that crosses their path. They learn that empathy without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-destruction. And so they begin to retreat, not to punish, but to protect. Not to hide, but to heal. Their energy becomes still, their emotions settle, and their mind starts to breathe again. What most people don't understand is that when a Sigma empath detaches, it's not because they stopped loving, it's because they finally started loving themselves. Their silence is the sound of recovery. Their distance is the proof of growth. They've reached a point where peace matters more than being understood. And when that shift happens, it's powerful, because once a Sigma empath learns to pull their energy back, everything changes. The world that used to drain them starts to lose its grip. They begin to see who truly values them, not for what they give, but for who they are. That's when the healing begins, not in noise or confrontation, but in quiet strength, the kind of strength that only comes from finally choosing themselves. Their silence speaks louder than confrontation ever could. When a Sigma empath goes silent, the energy in the room changes. The person who once comforted everyone, who always found the right words to calm storms, suddenly has none left to give, and that absence is deafening. Their silence isn't cold, it's powerful. It's the sound of boundaries being built after too many chances were given. People expect confrontation, raised voices, explanations, closure, but the Sigma empath gives none of that. They simply stop engaging, because when they've said everything they could and nothing changed, silence becomes their final language. That quiet isn't emptiness, it's filled with realization. It carries all the words they'll never say again, all the emotions they've processed alone, all the pain they've finally released. Their silence says, I see you, I understand, and I'm done. There's nothing left to prove, no battle worth fighting, no point in explaining empathy to those who never valued it. So they retreat gracefully, peacefully, letting distance do what words never could. What makes their silence so powerful is that it forces reflection. The people who once drained them start feeling the void they left behind. The manipulator, the taker, the inconsiderate friend, all of them notice the difference when the empath's warmth is gone. It's unsettling because the Sigma empath never announces their exit. They just stop showing up. No messages, no emotional reassurance, no soft reminders, just calm disconnection, and that silence echoes louder than any goodbye. The Sigma empath doesn't need to prove their pain. They don't argue to be understood anymore. They've learned that confrontation only feeds conflict, while silence ends it. Their quiet is not weakness, it's clarity. It's the awareness that peace is worth more than being right. And while others might interpret that silence as indifference, it's actually the highest form of emotional intelligence. It's the decision to rise above what no longer deserves a reaction. Because in the end, the Sigma empath knows silence doesn't just end conversations, it ends control. And nothing speaks louder than walking away without saying a word. They stop absorbing emotions that aren't theirs to carry. There comes a moment in every Sigma empath's life when they finally realize not every feeling they sense belongs to them. For years, they've walked through life like emotional sponges, soaking up the energy of every room, every person, every heartbreak that wasn't their own. They felt people's sadness like it was their duty to fix it, carried others' pain as if compassion required sacrifice. But one day, something inside them shifts. They wake up feeling heavy for no clear reason, and that's when they understand they've been carrying emotions that were never meant for them. This realization doesn't make them colder, it makes them conscious. They begin to notice how other people's moods subtly invade their peace, how they've been mistaking emotional chaos for connection. The same empathy that once made them the healer has been quietly draining them. And so they start drawing invisible lines. They learn to recognize what's theirs and what's not. When someone projects anger, they breathe instead of absorbing. When someone manipulates through guilt, they observe instead of internalizing. They stop confusing empathy with obligation. It's not an easy shift. The Sigma empath has spent a lifetime feeling responsible for everyone's well-being. Pulling back feels unnatural at first, almost selfish. But as they practice emotional detachment, something beautiful happens. Peace starts to return. Their mind becomes clearer, their energy lighter. They can finally feel their emotions again, unfiltered, unclouded, real. And that's when they realize that boundaries aren't walls, they're filters that protect compassion from becoming self-destruction. Now, when they sense someone's pain, they still care, but they no longer drown in it. They listen without absorbing. They comfort without collapsing. They can still love deeply, but not destructively. And people notice the difference. Their energy feels calmer, more grounded, more controlled. This new level of awareness changes everything. The Sigma empath no longer carries the world on their shoulders. They carry only what belongs to them. And that's enough. Because when they finally stop absorbing everyone else's emotions, they don't lose their empathy, they refine it. And for the first time, they're not just the healer, they're whole. Their energy shifts from healing others to protecting themselves. There comes a point where the Sigma empath's heart simply says enough. For years, they've poured their energy into helping others heal, absorbing pain, fixing brokenness, being the safe place for everyone but themselves. They carried people's chaos as if it was their calling, believing that love meant saving. But one day, after giving until it hurt, they realize something powerful. Healing others means nothing if it costs your own peace. That's the moment their energy changes. The nurturer becomes the protector. The giver becomes the guardian. The empath finally learns the art of self-preservation. It doesn't happen with bitterness, it happens with clarity. They stop running toward brokenness like it's their purpose. Instead, they start choosing peace like it's sacred. Their kindness doesn't disappear, it evolves. They no longer overextend for people who confuse access with entitlement. They no longer explain their boundaries or apologize for their silence. They've learned that not everyone wants to heal, some just want company in their chaos. And the Sigma empath refuses to sink again. Their energy, once outward and scattered, becomes inward and powerful. They start focusing that same emotional intelligence they use to read others on themselves. They meditate, they rest, they cut off toxic ties, not with anger, but with acceptance. They become selective with who earns their time, their empathy, their presence. What used to drain them now strengthens them because they've redirected their power from external healing to internal balance. People around them will notice the shift. The empath who once gave endlessly now has boundaries made of calm steel. They're still kind, but not available on demand. Still understanding, but no longer absorbing. Their peace becomes their new love language, and only those who respect it are allowed close. This transformation marks a turning point. The Sigma Empath stops rescuing and starts restoring themselves. Their focus is no longer on fixing the world, but on staying aligned, stable, and self-aware. And ironically, that's when their energy becomes even stronger, because the moment they start protecting their own soul, they don't lose their light. They make it untouchable. Even good people feel the loss, because the empath's warmth once filled every space. When a Sigma empath pulls back, the silence doesn't just affect those who hurt them, it echoes through everyone who once felt their light. Their presence was never loud, but it was powerful. The way they listened without judgment, the way they noticed the little things no one else did, the way they made others feel seen without having to say much. That energy wrapped around people like calm sunlight. You didn't realize how much of the warmth in your world came from them until it was gone. But even the good ones feel it. The friends who never meant harm, the people who took their presence for granted, all of them notice the shift. The room feels different without their grounding energy. Conversations feel emptier. There's less empathy in the air, less understanding, less peace. Because the Sigma Empath didn't just give attention, they gave emotional safety. They made people feel human again in a world that often forgets how. But when that empath begins to detach, that quiet comfort fades. They no longer carry everyone's pain, no longer rush to be the emotional anchor for others. Their energy retreats into themselves, creating a stillness that others can't quite explain. It's not hostility, it's absence, a gentle withdrawal that says, I need to heal too. And even good-hearted people feel that loss deeply, not because the empath punished them, but because their energy was the invisible glue holding everything together. The Sigma Empath's warmth is rare because it's not performative, it's pure intention. It comes from a place of depth, of sincerity, of quiet love. So when that warmth fades, the difference is felt instantly. People realize that empathy wasn't weakness, it was strength disguised as gentleness, and the absence of that strength leaves a silence that nothing else can replace. What most don't understand is that the empath didn't leave to hurt anyone, they left to recover. They didn't stop caring, they just started conserving. But their withdrawal is a mirror. It shows who truly valued their presence and who only valued their comfort. Because even the good ones learn, when a Sigma empath detaches, the world feels colder, not because they changed, but because they stopped carrying everyone's warmth alone. They no longer explain their distance, they simply become unreachable. At first, people notice subtle changes, slower replies, shorter messages, fewer smiles that once came easily. The Sigma empath doesn't make an announcement or stage a dramatic exit. They just fade slowly, gracefully, completely. One day you realize the connection feels different, colder, quieter. It's not anger, it's not resentment. It's simply that their energy is no longer available to you. Because once a Sigma empath has decided that peace matters more than pleasing people, they stop explaining why they're stepping away. Their silence becomes their final boundary. Explaining used to be their reflex, trying to make others understand their feelings, their exhaustion, their need for space, but explanations only led to misunderstanding. They've learned that some people don't want clarity, they want continued access, and the Sigma empath doesn't offer that anymore. So instead of long conversations and emotional closure, they choose simplicity. Distance. They stop picking up every call, stop showing up to prove their loyalty, stop pouring energy into relationships that never respected their effort. What confuses others most is how calm the empath becomes. There's no confrontation, no cold shoulder, just an absence that feels permanent. They've realized they owe no one an explanation for choosing peace. Their distance isn't punishment, it's preservation. It's what happens when a heart that once carried everyone finally decides to rest. People try to reach out, to re-engage, to understand what went wrong, but it's too late. The Sigma Empath is already detached emotionally, and once that happens, access is gone forever. Their unreachability isn't just physical, it's energetic. Even if you're in the same room, you can feel the wall. The warmth that once flowed freely is gone, replaced by stillness and quiet self-assurance. They no longer chase closure or validation. They no longer need to justify their distance or prove their reasons. Their peace is their proof. What once looked like withdrawal is actually evolution. They've learned that not everyone deserves access to their depth. They've accepted that protecting their energy will be misunderstood, and they're okay with that. Because when the Sigma Empath becomes unreachable, it's not out of cruelty, it's the moment they finally reclaim the space that was always meant to be theirs. Detachment doesn't make them colder, it makes them wiser. When a Sigma Empath detaches, most people mistake it for coldness, but they couldn't be more wrong. What looks like emotional distance is actually emotional evolution. It's the result of years spent feeling everything too deeply, loving too selflessly, and giving too freely. The Sigma Empath used to believe that staying open was always the right thing, that to love deeply meant to endure endlessly. But detachment teaches them a different truth. Real wisdom lies in knowing where to place your heart. They've been through the cycle, giving without limits, being misunderstood, and carrying pain that was never theirs to hold. Eventually, that level of emotional exposure becomes unsustainable. They reach a point where empathy without boundaries turns into quiet suffering, and instead of breaking, they learn. They begin to see people for who they are, not who they could become. They stop taking words at face value and start observing pattern. They no longer romanticize potential. They value consistency. Detachment gives them clarity that emotion once clouded. This shift doesn't harden them, it refines them. They still feel deeply, but selectively. They still care, but wisely. They can still love, but from a place of self-respect instead of self-sacrifice. Their emotional intelligence sharpens. They can sense what drains their peace long before it becomes chaos. They don't chase closure anymore, they recognize it in silence. They don't need to argue to prove their loyalty. Their calmness says it all. And people notice the change. The Sigma Empath who once absorbed everyone's storms now stands centered, composed, and unreadable. They no longer bleed for the wrong people, and that calm unnerves those who once fed on their openness. Because detachment isn't a wall, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that not everything deserves a reaction, not every pain requires participation, and not every bond is meant to last. In their quiet, they find freedom. They learn that peace doesn't come from holding on, it comes from letting go. And that lesson transforms them. They haven't become colder, they've become conscious. They haven't stopped caring, they've started caring correctly. And that wisdom, born from pain and clarity, becomes their greatest power. Once they detach, they love differently, calmer, clearer, and on their own terms. When a Sigma Empath finally detaches, love no longer looks like self-sacrifice. It stops being something they give recklessly and becomes something sacred, deliberate, and grounded in self-respect. They've walked through emotional chaos, through loving too much, forgiving too quickly, and believing too deeply in people who weren't ready to be loved that way. But after detachment, everything changes. Their love matures, it slows down, it becomes quieter, but infinitely more powerful. They no longer love to fix or to prove. They love to connect, genuinely, soulfully, peacefully. They've learned that love without balance destroys, that empathy without boundaries invites manipulation. So they build a new kind of love, one where peace is the foundation and understanding is the rhythm. The Sigma Empath doesn't chase validation anymore. They choose alignment. They no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. They know that real love doesn't demand their energy, it harmonizes. Now, their affection feels different. It's steady, not desperate, intentional, not reactive. They don't fall for potential, they honor reality. Their heart has become wiser and their intuition sharper. They can sense whether someone's energy feels safe or deceptive within moments. They listen to how they feel around someone more than what they hear from them. Their love is no longer blind compassion, it's conscious connection. And because of that, fewer people are allowed close, but those who are feel the rarest kind of warmth. The Sigma Empath's love, once scattered and exhausting, now becomes focused and healing. They can sit in silence with someone and still make them feel understood. They can give affection without losing identity. They love from fullness, not from emptiness. This version of love confuses those who knew the old them, the one who always gave first, forgave fast, and stayed too long. But this new energy radiates peace. It's the kind of love that doesn't need to be loud to be felt, the kind that protects its peace while still being pure. Because once a Sigma empath detaches and heals, they stop loving for approval and start loving with awareness. Calm, clear, unshakable. That's when their love becomes unstoppable, not because it's bigger, but because it's finally theirs. When a Sigma empath detaches, it's not the end of their love, it's the rebirth of it. They stop being the healer for everyone else and finally become the protector of their own peace. Their silence isn't cold, it's sacred. It's where their power returns, where clarity grows, and where they remember that empathy isn't about losing yourself for others. It's about finding yourself again after you've given too much. If you've ever felt that shift, that quiet transformation where you stop explaining, stop chasing, and simply start being, then you already know what it means to evolve as a Sigma empath. You've learned that peace is the real proof of healing. You've learned that distance can be love, too, the kind that honors your own heart first. Before you go, take a second to subscribe to Brainy Empath, where deep thinkers, healers, and emotionally intelligent souls grow together. And if you've watched until now, drop "peace is power" in the comments, so I'll know you're one of the rare ones who understand that detachment isn't weakness, it's awakening.